vast experience in healthcare field. So his experience, he has had it in Wipro and other healthcare institutions like organizations like Philips, etc. So he has wide experience in healthcare field, and he will be letting us know what big data, how big data is applied in healthcare field. So I welcome you, sir. Your experience you will be sharing with these participants. That would be quite welcome, and that too at this pandemic time. What we have now is big data plays a vital role. That is how I feel, because we know that there are in number of cases gets increased, and we have to analyze the data where all these things are going. And you have been seeing so many messages on WhatsApp, I hope. So those WhatsApp messages also are being analyzed using big data analysis, and they are giving up with some other this thing also. Like I have seen one message saying that O positive people are less affected. They are not subjected to more this coronavirus kind of thing than the other people. The exposure to this coronavirus, them getting affected, is very less. So these kind of analysis and all are possible only with big data. So sir will be in a position to explain it better, I know. So he will be doing that. I am really interested in listening to him, what he has to see, tell us during this pandemic time, how big data is being applied. I welcome you, sir. Your experience will be very much useful to the participants. Thank you, sir. Then what we have here is our college, Alpha College of Engineering. If you see Alpha College of Engineering, we have started this institution in the 2006. So I'm the principal, Dr. B. Soumya. So I have nearly 25 years of academic and research experience in the field of engineering. Our college, it is very much in Chennai, that is nearer to Pundamalli. At Tirumalizai, our college is located. And it is located in the area, the area of our college is 65 acres. In that built up area is 12 acres. Our college is approved by AICTE, affiliated to Anna University. And this is an IS 2015 certified institution. So we are offering UG courses, 5 UG courses, 4 in the field of engineering, that is Bachelor of Engineering, and 1 in the stream of Bachelor of Technology, that is Biomedical Engineering, Computer Science and Engineering, Electronics and Communication Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, or offered under Bachelor of Engineering, and Information Technology is a BTech course. Then we do offer MBA course, that is Master of Business Administration, in 4 fields: Finance, HR, Marketing, and Operation Research. So our goal is to make a student best in his chosen field. So if he is coming at whatever level, whether he is average or good, or whatever his level be, when he or she goes out of a college, he will be best in his chosen profession. And for that, we have got student assisting units. One is career development cell. Then we have got entrepreneurship development cell. We have got big training cell, SwissMem training cell. Then we have got tied up with PALS, that is Pan IIT Leadership Series. I'll let you know what these cells do for our students. So we have got career development cell. Actually, what they do in this cell is they do give aptitude training, whether it is a logical reasoning, arithmetic reasoning, analytical, and whatever be the aptitude required for your placement, that aptitude training will be taken care by CDC. Then we have got interpersonal skills. So you have to ultimately work in a team. So that team's guidance, how to be in a team and how to take the team forward. So those things would be taught in interpersonal skills training. Then we got soft skills training. So where we do offer the communication skills, and you do have to, what way you have to present yourself, the posture, everything is important. All these are being taught by soft skills training. So we have got these trainings, aptitude, interpersonal skills, and soft skills training as part of CDC. With these trainings, we do develop overall personality of our students. So ultimately, when they do come out of college, and they would be in a position to get a better job, because their overall personality is such that they are very much welcomed into the industry. Then we've got the entrepreneurship development cell. So what we want is, we don't want just our students to be a job seeker, we want them to be a job provider as well. So for that, this CDC cell works. So what it actually is doing is, it is tying up with various institutions like NEON, Enactus, MSME, all those institutions. And what they do is, the students' project, if it has to be made as a product which could be sold outside, So that kind of ventures, if they want to make themselves an entrepreneur and they want to be a job provider to others so that they can manufacture something and give it to the society. So those kind of things, these agencies help them by evaluating their projects and how it could be converted to product and what funding they can get from government agencies and other agencies for their projects. So all these things, this guidance is provided by EDC. Then we got business English certification. Mainly this is a internationally acclaimed certification course which is offered by Cambridge University, UK. Whatever we know, the knowledge we possess, that has to ultimately go to the people. So that knowledge sharing will only happen when you have 4 basic skills of any language. Unless you convey what you have in your mind, it is not at all taken well by the others. So unless you communicate, that is more important. So for that, what we want is, we want to emphasize on the language skills, that is listening, speaking, reading and writing skills. So all these 4 skills training will be provided by our BEXCEL. Then ultimately the communicative students who has got that potential to communicate themselves better will get employed in very good agencies. So that is what this BEXCEL is all about. Then we've got Center of Excellence. So different departments, students are doing these certification course under these Center of Excellences. So CCNA certification, that is mainly a networking certification that is provided by Cisco Laboratory. So this Cisco Laboratory certification, it can be taken up with biomedical engineers, by electronics and communication engineers, computer science engineers, information technology. Anybody who wants to do a networking course can take this certification. So as such, CCNA has got 5 levels. So all these 5 levels we train our students. Then we have got Autodesk Inventor certification that is provided by Autodesk. That is a CAD certification, computer aided design, mainly meant for mechanical engineers. Then we have got tied up with Oracle Academy for certification courses on Oracle, Java programming and OR programming. Then we have tied up with Dell EMC for big data analytics. So all these certification courses are offered to our students free of cost. We are not charging them anything. So whenever you go outside and do these courses, those courses would cost you nearly 20 to 30,000 for, even for CCNA, single level would cost you that. So all these courses we offer free of cost for our students. Then every student's dream when they come out of their schooling is to become an IITian. So IIT is such that if you want to become an engineer, you want to do it in IIT. So our students, though they have not joined IIT, to give them a glimpse of what IIT is all about, we have tied up with the Pan IIT Leadership Series. What they do offer is IIT professors offer seminars.
Hello, ma'am.
I think
Yeah.
we lost our audio.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Am I still audible?
Principal, ma'am. Sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay.
I think ma'am is having some issues with her connection.
Sure. I will wait. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Raghuraman, you have raised your hand. If you have any questions, you just post it in the chat box, please. Ma'am would join in a few minutes.
Then they do
time.
conduct competitions in which our experts.
Madam, in between your audio was not clear, actually.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. Now
Am I
it's
audible,
audible, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
there was an interruption, ma'am. Sorry for that. So SwissMems, it's a certification offered by SwissMem, which is a leading technical association for engineering industries in Switzerland. As we all know, Germany and Switzerland are the precision engineering, and they are the pioneers in the engineering field. So with them, we have tied up for offering two courses. One is machine learning, mechatronics. As we all know, this big data analytics, machine learning is more important because all the analysis of the data is happening through machine learning. Because if you are presented with huge data, we will not be in a position to analyze it on our own, because lakhs and lakhs of data available, which is presented to a human being. He cannot go through that and make a inference from that, which is not at all possible humanly. So that is being done by the machines. So for that, machine learning is being offered. So machine learning is part of artificial intelligence. As you very well know, artificial intelligence is giving a machine the intelligence which it doesn't have. So we are providing that course. So the student will be in a position to do the programming, and they will also know how to do analysis of the big data as well in the machine learning certification course. Then we have got mechatronics, that is part of mechanical and electronics, both mended together. So both mechanical parts, as you know, a humanoid requires a mechanical part for movement, everything. And electronics is there for making it small as possible, because the control we are providing is through embedded system. So that mechatronics also is part of our SwissMem certification course. So the students would be offered machine learning certification, mechatronics certification with SwissMems. We are offering SkillRack online courses for our students. So these online courses help them to improve their problem solving skills as well as programming skills. And it helps them also to perform well in their competitive exams. So I will just enlist the achievements of a college. So our college stood at the 40th rank in the top 100 engineering colleges in India in the Silicon India ranking. Then our college student Malavika Nair, she took gold medal and university first rank from Anna University. She's a 2018 postdoc student, and this is her photograph for receiving her medal from Honorable Governor Banwarilal Purohit. Then we have got Teaching Excellence Award in the year 2019 from the Education Matters. So our college has been consistently producing university ranks and gold medals, and our students and staff have received many funding from government agencies like Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, AICTE, and ISRO for the projects. We offer our students industrial training and internship in leading industries, not only in India, we are doing it in abroad as well. Then our college has consistently achieved 100% placement, and our students are receiving awards for their projects as well. And our students, they are doing higher studies not only in India, they are doing it in abroad also, mainly in Canada, US, and European countries. They are doing their higher studies. We have got excellent sports facilities. So what we have is spacious grounds where they can play cricket, football, everything. So all these spacious grounds are actually an attraction for our college. And our college has won gold medals in zonal and state levels. And one of our students is representing Anna University national level also. And we offer these students who join our college scholarships. So SC student, the 100% tuition fee waiver is there. And for first graduate student, we do offer 25,000 fee concession. And students with marks above 90% and 75%, we have 2 slabs of scholarship for them. So the learning environment, if you see, it's a very amicable environment. What we have is our teaching staff, they are well trained and dedicated and very friendly. Even our non-teaching staff are well behaved and polite. And overall, this is a very amicable environment, so that you will feel it is as if a home away from home. So Alpha College of Engineering is actually a home away from home. So we welcome the students to join our college. And this COVID time, we do want all of you to stay home, stay informed, and stay safe. Thank you. Thank you. So over to Sujata ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Principal Ma'am, for this wonderful presentation. I take this opportunity to introduce our speaker of the day, Mr. Gokul Chandrasekhar, Technical Architect from Baxter International Incorporated, Bangalore. Mr. Gokul Chandrasekhar did his graduation in BE Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering from National Engineering College. After graduation, he started his career in a startup medical devices company at Pondicherry. His interest in biomedical engineering made him complete his master's in biomedical engineering from Vellore Institute of Technology. After his master's, he worked with Wipro Technologies and later on with Hospira Healthcare in medical devices division. He has also worked in Philips Healthcare as a test and release architecture. He is also Six Sigma certified and has an overall experience of 16 plus years in medical devices field. He is currently working as the architect of verification and validation at Baxter International Bengaluru. He has also worked in global projects in US and Netherlands for 2.5 years. On behalf of Alpha College of Engineering, I once again welcome you, sir. We are eagerly waiting for the session. Over to you, sir.
Thanks for the wonderful introduction about the college and all the good work that has been happening. Thank you, staff, management, students, for making your time and inviting me for this session. Such a wonderful morning on Saturday. Thanks for making the time. So let's make this time a bit useful. Without much of delay, let's get into the topic of discussion today. Give me a moment, I'll share my screen. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So like Sujata mentioned, right? So if you guys have questions, please do type in the questions. And if you are willing to speak, I would like to have this session more interactive, which means I am going to ask questions. It's not just me talking. I will also ask certain questions so that you guys can also participate in the learning together, right? So you are free to use anything like a Google or any other source which you want to use to find answers if you want to, right? If you are already knowing the answer, that's well and good. If you don't know, feel free to use Google to search and provide answers as well. That's perfectly fine with me, right? So having said that, today's topic is about big data in healthcare and how it is helping in healthcare. So like like Sujata mentioned, right? So you guys know how I have been contributing to the healthcare and medical device world. But what I would also like to do is a bit of my experience on and journey and how I've seen the big data and artificial intelligence growing and contributing to healthcare, right? So you'll get a picture of how it evolved as well. So like they mentioned in the introduction, right? So after working briefly with a medical device company in Pondicherry, I did my master's and then I joined Wipro Technologies. And there I was fortunate to work directly for medical device business unit and for medical device customers. So when I started, right, it was in 2005 I started my journey. I worked for, hold on a moment. Yeah, so I worked for a company called Hospira as a contractor, and this was the first device that I worked for. So this is an infusion pump. So what it does is, like if you guys have seen in our Indian hospitals, right? If somebody faints, they give glucose, right? They basically inject fluid in their veins. So it's just about a suspended bag and it works through gravity. But there are patients for whom there is continuous medication needed, right? So what they do is they use this pump, for example, for cancer patients or somebody who's having acute, diabetic kind of symptoms where continuous insulation is needed, right? So they use this device called infusion pump. It's also being used in ICU care, right? So where continuous injection of medicine and fluid is needed. So this is the device, and this device at that point of time did not have any of these connectivity, right? So what are these symbols? Question: what are these symbols? What is this symbol? This is easier. I will answer this. This is more like, connecting the Ethernet cable on your computer. This is something you see in your mobile devices. This is also something that you see in mobile devices, this Wi-Fi, and this is network. So what is this first symbol, and what is this symbol, or maybe this symbol? Any answers?
Somebody can answer in chat box if you know what is what. Arun Kumar has answered that is a cloud symbol.
Yeah, the first one is cloud. Good, Arun Kumar. What is this symbol? This bit challenging.
Ida Sharon, you can type it in the chat box.
Amrita has typed as cloud data, sir.
The first one is cloud, that is clear. And next one?
Yeah, when people are finding answer, I'll move on. So we'll wait for the answer. Do search, right? So this is the next device that I worked on. This is used for cataract surgery. So what cataract means is the lens in your eyes, right? So that goes a bit semi-opaque as people grow older because of various reasons. The primary reason being diabetes again. So as it grows a bit semi-opaque, right, they will not be able to see properly. So what they do is they replace the natural lens with the artificial lens. This is the device that is used to do that, procedure. So I worked for this device again between 2006 and 2007. This device did not have much of connectivity at all at that point of time, right? Keep in mind today these devices might have developed connectivity and rest of the stuff, but at that point of time it did not have. That's what I'm trying to say here, right? So then I worked for a company called Radiometer. They manufacture devices for blood testing. They are world leaders in blood testing machines. So I worked for a small portable blood test machine. You can see it in any hospital, even in India. You will see ABL 80 and 800. So this had some basic connectivity. So now, did anybody answer this question?
No, sir. No, probably they know battery level, Wi-Fi, all those things, but they have not answered.
Okay, so this is a symbol for intranet, meaning you are connecting within a closed network, which means only within hospital they can transfer the data in a secure network. So this option was available, right? So we have systems. I understand there are biomedical engineers also in your college. Probably some participants from biomedical are also available in the call. So if you guys have heard of hospital data management systems like RIS kind of systems, so you can transfer the data to the hospital server where it can sit centralized within hospital. It's intranet. Yeah. So in 2010-12, right? This is when I worked for the device called Cath Lab. Anyone knows what is Cath Lab machine? What is it used for?
Any answers?
Participants, you can type your answers in the chat box. Angioplasty.
Angioplasty.
Yes. That's correct. So good. Good. Correct answer. So it is used for not just for angioplasty and angiography. It is also used to treat aneurysms in the brain, meaning you can have
somebody has answered blood flow through arteries.
Yeah. So basically, it is a minor hole which they put in the groin or in the arteries, and they put it. It's more like a plumbing, right? So you would have heard of angiography and angioplasty for sure. It's basically very popular for treating heart blocks, right? If there is a block in the heart, the arteries which is responsible to nourish the heart, which is responsible to the AV node and SA node, which is responsible to have the heartbeat. So if there is any blocks, it is used for treating death, right? It has a very basic connectivity option, again, like intranet kind of option, where it can take all the images, send it to a centralized, image server, call it PACS, picture archiving system, right? So this is that device. So after that, in fact, I worked for the company called Hospira, which I worked in the beginning of my career. Now this time I worked as a direct, employee, not as contractor. So I worked for Hospira, and again another model of infusion pump that they had between 2012 and 14. This had slightly advanced connectivity, so it had some kind of cloud connectivity, right? So what was happening, if you are a bit aware, right? When they program the therapy, right? When they program what is the flow rate, what is the medicine that patient has to take, there are chances that the nurses make mistakes in it, because of which wrong medication happens, and because of either underdose or overdose, there could be effect on the patient, right? So what benefit this gave is there was a cloud-based platform where you can feed in all the therapy that is needed. So somebody can check. So for example, a hospital nurse can review it, ensure that everything is proper, and then send it through cloud. So it will go and download to the infusion pump directly. So all the patient or the nurse at the point of care has to do is just review it, ensure it is all proper, and start the therapy, right? So they don't have option of without a password or something. So there is no chance that somebody can make a mistake in the programming. So this is one cloud-based connectivity that was there. And next one. Yeah, so then I worked for Philips Healthcare again, this time for a bit advanced cath lab devices or machines. So this was between 2014 and 18, right? This is when I saw it actually evolved from just cloud-based to a little bit of data analysis and AI, right? So this is when probably we had the faster connectivity, probably all the 4G and high-speed network connectivity, where data transfer can happen faster. It can sit in the cloud, and we can do some amount of analytics along with the artificial intelligence of analyzing those data, right? So I will talk in detail about this in the future slides, but I just wanted to give an overview of how it evolved. This is the device that I work, today as we speak. This is a device called peritoneal dialysis device. Basically, it's a dialysis device sitting at home, where a patient can take dialysis at home. So there are two types of dialysis devices. One which probably you have seen in hospitals or you've seen in movies, where they take all the blood out of the patient and make it purify it with the device, and then put it back into the patient. That's called HD devices or hemodialysis devices. This is a peritoneal dialysis device where we do not take the blood out. This happens at the patient's house. They have a small insertion in their tummy, and there is a tube that is lying out of it. So we have something called a peritoneal membrane, which is a membrane which separates your stomach with the rest of the body parts, right? It's a semi-permeable membrane. So what happens is, they put the medicine or fluid, they inject it into the tummy, and the dialysis happens through osmosis, right? So the exchange of particles, where all the bad particles from the body is absorbed into the fluid that you have put in the tummy, and then after some time take the fluid out, right? And we keep repeating this cycle like throughout the night, so that we remove as much as bad particles out of the body, right? So that's the way we take the bad chemicals out of the body instead of purifying the blood by taking the blood out. It's a less painful method, getting popular recently because of other reasons as well. I will explain in detail. So this also has cloud, big data, and artificial intelligence. Okay, so now coming to benefits for the patient, right? So first, let's talk about what benefit it brings to the end customer, who is the patient in our case, right? So, like I mentioned, right, when somebody is taking a dialysis, he or she is doing this at the comfort of home, right? So, how does doctor know if the treatment was, effective, right? So, what they used to do is write down the details of the therapy. So, let me put it in a very simple way to explain it. So, let's say you put 1 liter of the medicine inside your tummy, and you take out 1.1 liter, that is 1100 ml outside your body. So that means 100 ml of bad fluid you have removed out of the body, right? So what the patient used to do is they have to measure their body weight. They have to measure, the weight of fluid every time after the therapy is over in a piece of paper. So we give a chart kind of, booklet to the patient. They have to record everything, and they go visit the hospital, once in 2 weeks or once in a month, based on when they started the therapy, so that the doctor can see the therapy details and adjust it so that they get the right amount of therapy, right? So this is completely eliminated today with the cloud and big data. I will explain in the next slide how it is being eliminated. Second, timely ordering of consumables at comfort of home, right? So today, in current COVID situation, you know that probably you are already aware, people who are diabetic, people who have hypertension, they have relatively lesser immunity. And if they are already a dialysis patient, for example, or a heart patient, they go to hospital, they are high likely to catch infection. So they are supposed to avoid hospital. And what happens for a dialysis patient? They cannot stop their dialysis. They have to take the dialysis. So that's the reason this device is becoming more popular now, where people are able to sit at home and take the dialysis. And what do we do? When they have to take the medicine, right? So they order the medicine, and then they are also able to track how much of medicine is left at their house. So since it is all connected, right, we know what treatments are being taken every day. So it can automatically alert, for which patients how much of medicine needs to be reordered, right? So we don't have to wait for the customer to call and order the medicine. Instead, what we do is we look at the dashboard, and the customer can either, also has a dashboard where they can directly order it online, or as a company, we are able to also proactively, place order for these customers just by telling them, if they are running short, we can order it. So I see hands raised. Any questions here?
Sir, Mr. Chandrasekhar is having a question. Is corona disease associated with GERD symptoms?
What symptom is that?
GERD.
Sorry, I'm not aware of that. I'm not a corona expert. I'm more of a a medical device expert. So anything related to a specific disease, probably which I have not worked on. I'm sorry, I may not be able to answer questions related to that.
Okay, sir. Uh, that's all. I don't see further questions, sir. You can just please carry on.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So, any doubts in what how patients are getting benefited? Any doubts on how the therapy is being done remotely at home?
Sir, Anup has a question. Like,
Yep.
what is the primary goal of big data in healthcare? I think you'll be answering it in the presentation.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's come to that in the future slides. I have specific examples with which you can easily understand how we are benefiting. Any other questions? It's important to understand how these therapies and angiographies are being done, so that you can understand in the future slides how I'm linking the big data benefits with these. Any other questions?
How to get data from medical device? It's a question
Okay.
by Katie Manian.
Okay, good. So like you saw in the previous slide, right? So we have various types of connectivity, and we also have certain standards, industry standards, where we are supposed to have secure connectivity between the device and the cloud server, right? If you are asking how to get data from current devices that are already there in the field, probably you're not able to going to get it because it's a proprietary information. But if you're asking how it communicates to the cloud, it communicates through a secure network. It's called probably you guys would have heard of cybersecurity. So there is some standards for that. It's called TLS 1.2, 1.3, 2.0. So many are there. You can Google it to understand that further. Any other question?
That's it, sir. That's it for now.
One more question. Ma'am, one more question.
Yes, sir.
Is, outcome and output in healthcare, are they same? Output and outcome.
I'm not really understanding the question. So what's the English difference between output and outcome?
Anup, can you be a little bit more clear? Can you elaborate on your question, please? So that we'll just note it down and answer you.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll move to the next slide in interest of time. Probably we are going to take a little more than what we expected. So please park the questions now. I will again pause after a couple of slides. Now this is very important. So what's the benefit to the physicians or hospitals? Physicians means doctors, and hospitals. How big data and the AI is helping for doctors? Like I mentioned, right? Doctor gets a dashboard where they can log in and they can find which patients took treatment on which days. So if they missed a treatment, that also is alerted. They can find why that patient has not taken the treatment. If there is any issues with the treatment, for example, if they got any error message, or if they abandoned the treatment, or if they had received less than what they are supposed to receive as a treatment, that will be alerted in the dashboard. All the processing happens in the backend, and that will be alerted in the dashboard. For example, yellow. So this can be set in the backend based on AI. They can analyze the data, and they can based on the age, the treatment that was set, and various other parameters, weight and various other parameters, it will calculate and say that this patient potentially got a slightly lesser treatment than he or she is supposed to get. So that will be the yellow flag. So if the doctor hovers over the yellow flag, they can find what was the issue. Similarly, if there was a treatment that was really bad, or if they face certain issues, they abandon the treatment, they will get a red flag. So if the doctor hovers over the red flag, he can get more details. what it is. So with this, they get a daily dashboard, and they can review it at hospital itself. They don't need the patient going to hospital. So this is how the effectiveness of the treatment is being monitored. They can adjust the treatment remotely, meaning they don't have to wait for 1 month for the patient to come and give all the details. Immediately after they see a yellow or red flag in the backend, the doctor can adjust the treatment and see how the treatment got affected the next day. The patient need not go and fiddle with any of the options in the cycler. They just have to accept the treatment and go ahead. So this dashboard, the one that you see on right side, this is particularly benefit to the hospital, right? So now question, you guys saw that angiography machine, right? How much do you think would that machine cost? Any idea?
1 crore.
1
Being
crore.
answered by Indrani and 15 lakhs by Anupa.
No, both are not really closer to the correct answer.
Jay Vignesh is answering us nearly 15 crores.
15 crores. This is way ahead. Okay. So
Manigandan
somewhere between
2 crores.
Sorry.
Manigandan is answered as 2 crores.
Okay, that's very close. So you get a basic, basic machine, cath lab machine for about 2 crores, like you saw in my first slide, and you get slightly advanced ones for up to like 10 to maybe it goes to 15 crore, maybe depends on country as well, I think. But in India, it can be somewhere close to 10 to 12 crores, the advanced ones, right? So when a hospital is investing about 12 crores, now how much of such machines hospital like let's say Apollo can have? How many such devices they can have? Any idea?
3, sir. Anup has answered as 3.
3, yeah. Maybe slightly more.
10 to 15 by Jay Vignesh.
Oh, that's very close. Yeah, somewhere around 10 is what a high-end or corporate big hospitals can have. But when you go to a smaller hospital, right, where or a secondary city and a tertiary city, like for example, if you take a place like let's say down south, like Tirunelveli or Kanyakumari kind of place, you will have only 1 or 2 missions running in the whole city, right? And as you know, we are the world capital for diabetes. We as in India is world capital for diabetes. So we have lot of patients with heart issues, right? Who come in, many come in crashing. Some are early diagnosed, which is good, but many come in crashing. So it is very important for the hospital to gain the revenue of what they invested, right? If they are investing like about 10 to 15 crores, they should use the device or the machine very effectively, and they should also treat all the patients who are coming in. If you had gone to a hospital, to a cardiology division, you can probably see that it's like heavily crowded. Usually, typically it's heavily crowded. Like it's nothing less than a first day, first show for a big stars movie. I'm giving an analogy. It's nothing less than that. I'm serious about it. So that much of people wait for this treatment to happen, and like I mentioned, there are only a couple of devices in secondary cities. So it's huge rush. So it is also a responsibility of the manufacturers to figure out how the hospitals are using it very efficiently for the investment that they made, and also to ensure that they are not going down. They should not go bad or not usable in the span of time. Right. For the first point, I will show how it is being done in this slide. For the second point, it's in the next slide. Right. So we have a dashboard where we can figure out the overall system usage, right? Which hospital, what procedures they have done, and what is the split of procedures they have done. So you can also figure out if a certain hospital is not using it for a certain procedure, maybe they don't know how to use it, or maybe they do not have a physician who is preferring to use this machine for that procedure. They might be preferring to use a competitor product, for example. So then we can understand why they are hesitant to use the device as well. So that we see a healthy split of usage of the device for different types of procedures, and also we ensure that they are not leaving the device without using it efficiently. Maybe there are issues like local hospital planning issues where they might take quite some time to prepare the next patient before they can put them on the bed, right? Because of which they don't use it continuously. So we can see this data and we can suggest them that these are the things that you can improve to the hospital as a manufacturer, so that it is a benefit model. Also these days, there are hospitals which don't want to invest this. What they say is, you as a manufacturer, you invest it, you take the returns out of it. We will not pay for it. You invest it in our hospital and you take the returns for the surgeries or therapies being made, which puts us in spot because we need to take the returns by ourselves. So in such situations, this is very, very useful tool where all the data, analysis happens in the backend, and we are able to see the dashboard in the morning. So now coming for the benefits to the manufacturer, like I mentioned, right? You saw one dashboard. We also have a dashboard for service, right? So where a service engineer can go log in and find out what are the different issues that are happening with the device. How the device health is. So we can predict a failure of a device before it actually fails through this dashboard. I have examples in the next slides. I will show exactly how it is being done. But just imagine if you have a dashboard and if you are able to get all the logs from the device, it goes to the cloud, it sits in the cloud, and we have APIs in these cloud platforms is what I understand. I'm not a computer guy, or I don't work on big data directly. I'm basically a systems guy. I work with I cut across with all the functions, basically hardware, electrical, mechanical, software, and we also deal with chemicals and stuff like that. So material science and all that. So I cut across, but this is my understanding interacting with people who work on analytics and big data. So what I understand is there are APIs which are provided by cloud services like Amazon or Azure kind of things, where you can directly use that API and adjust it to our need. So they don't write all the code by themselves. They also leverage certain things which are readily available, right? So with that, they get all the logs from the device, and all the analysis happens in the backend, and we get a dashboard alert for anything which is going little low. Like to make it simple, right? If you're going to for a health checkup, you will have a range of all the parameters that you want to check, right? If you want to check a heartbeat or your SpO2 pulse oximeter, right? So you have a range, right? So it will show where exactly you are lying. Are you in the green zone, or maybe you are in orange or red zone, right? So something like that you can understand for the device. So such dashboard comes in. Automatically alerts are generated, and it is also used for tracking devices for predictive maintenance, where what is this predictive maintenance? Before something really fails, the service engineer goes and fixes it, right? And like I mentioned, right, we are able to order the consumables on behalf of patients as well, like medicines and stuff like that. So I'll pause here for a couple of minutes. Any questions?
So there are a lot of questions from the participants,
Mhm.
like the tools used in big data to collect and analyze data. What are the tools, sir?
Sure. So like I mentioned, right, there are, as I understand, there are APIs and ready-made tools. Like I mentioned, all the data from the cycler or from the devices goes and sits in the cloud, right? Now, how to take the data and filter it out and take the what is needed. For that, they are using APIs these cloud companies are themselves providing APIs is what I understand, which they leverage and they write codes on top of it, probably Python or some kind of tools, open source they use, and they adjust it so that they get a dashboard details.
And the next question, sir. How big data enhances patient engagement?
Oh yeah. So like I mentioned, right, this is absolutely a patient delight, right? When you are able to find what a patient is, not having as a consumable in current scenario. Let's say you want to plan how much of medicine you have to stock for a region because you know how many patients are there in that particular region, and you are able to deliver it even in this lockdown. You are able to deliver all the medicine before it goes out of stock for them. That's absolutely a customer engagement which we can do. And the second thing, like I mentioned, the doctor can adjust the therapy remotely. They can find what is going wrong and they can adjust the therapy remotely. That engages the customer.
The next question, sir. Like, is there a possibility for connecting all the hospital dashboards in a single date?
That's a good question. I don't know of any such attempt being made today. Maybe it's a good opportunity to make it. But unfortunately, what happens, right? A manufacturer will not be willing to share the data to a public dashboard where data from all other manufacturers can also come in. So that's the reason they want to sell it as a feature, right? That's why probably they will have such restrictions to share the data. But what is possible is if there is a generic data that is available. For example, if there are X-ray images, right? So all that can go and sit in a system called PACS. It's a picture archiving system where there all data from different manufacturers can come in, and there is a possibility of building dashboard there to analyze that data. Like for example, I was reading something today this morning that they are using the X-ray data to pre-scan for COVID patients, right? So they have already built a database for COVID patients, and it's very simple, right? You don't have to do the actual COVID test. Just take a chest X-ray based on how the lung is infected. They feed in the data, and in the backend the analysis happens, and they are able to see, what is the chance that that patient can become a COVID patient. So I think it is possible in a certain extent, but not completely.
And then another question, last
Yeah.
question. Like, what are the specific knowledge which doctors have to gain by using these instruments?
Okay, so yeah, we might think doctors are not tech savvy, but I've seen at least the younger doctors, right? Most of them are really tech savvy, and I've seen many doctors starting their own medical companies as well, right? So they know how to use the devices. We just have to give training. Many a times doctors may not use the devices directly. Could be someone like a hospital nurse or um, technician who will use the device. But doctors are also becoming very tech savvy these days, and they catch up really well on using these.
Yes, sir. We can progress with the session, sir.
Sure. Time check. It's already 12. I'm
Yeah.
going to take some more time. I think we can say that we are halfway through.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
now comes, how this is being done. Probably you guys are already aware, but just to ensure that everybody is on the same page, I put in this slide. So basically, the data gets recycled. How it happens? So to analyze big data, what is the basic need? Any answers?
I don't see any answers yet.
That's okay.
Indrani says it is data.
Yes, absolutely. Very good. So we need data, right? So we need data, which means we need both good data and bad data so that we can differentiate and analyze it. So many times we get the real data because companies have been collecting data for a long time. But if we do not have data, then we need to simulate the data, simulate and collect the data where we can intentionally corrupt a good data to make it bad data to figure out how our algorithms work. Then we feed it into the cloud and artificial intelligence where algorithms are written and they keep evolving, right? They keep evolving. Somebody still has to train this machine. It's not like it can train by itself, right? So what we have is typically a couple of very experienced service engineers who are sitting on the dashboard, and they keep looking at the dashboard and they adjust this parameter that they set, so that the algorithm learns and adapts accordingly, right? So we don't leave it completely to the machine to adapt. There is a certain part the machine does, but there is also a bit of human intelligence that is put in place so that we get the right output out of it. If you don't train it well, we will not get the right output out of it. So how it benefits? We are able to do predictive servicing. There is a specific example in the next slide. It is a good service for the customer. Revenue increases, like I mentioned in the previous slide. We have a clear dashboard increasing, not using it right. A very high customer satisfaction. These are the benefits that we get. Any questions on this slide?
How to separate good and bad data?
Yeah. So like if you are designing a device, right? If you are a designer of a particular device, you will know what is expected, right? For example, let's put a simple example, right? If you are measuring, let's say, heart rate, right? So your heart rate should have a range, right? A typical range is what, 80 to 120, right? Beats per second. So if you are feeding in a data which is more than 120, right, which you simulate and then feed it in, let's say you have 100 data for heart rate, out of which you can put in maybe 5 or 6 data which goes beyond the 120 beats per second per minute, and then you can put a less heart rate also on the lower end. So that is something that you simulate and give it as input to the AI to figure out if it is able to detect it and get a output out of it. That's how we simulate it. So I gave a simple analogy, but it's not as easy as this when it comes to the actual data. I'll come to the details. The next slide. Any other questions?
No further questions, sir.
All right. Okay. So now comes the example. I would like someone to explain how X-ray machine works here. So basically, this is the cath lab machine where patient is put on the table. They are injected with a radio opaque, injection like iodine or something, where it flows into the arteries and through the body. And wherever there's block in the heart, right, there's X-ray passed. It is radio opaque, right? There's X-ray passed, and this is the detector. And you see the image on the screen. Basically, wherever there is a block, it will be highlighted. Right? This is a simple way how this cath lab machine works. Now, anybody who can explain how a X-ray works? X-ray is basic physics. You would have studied in schools and colleges. Anyone who can explain how a X-ray tube works?
You can raise your hand. Raghuraman says radiation.
Yeah, bit of detail might be needed. So I want this to be explained. The picture that you see, right? I want this to be explained. I understand it is basically a radiation, but how it is generated? You may want to unmute Sujata in case somebody wants to talk.
Yes. If anybody wants to answer, please raise your hand so that I can unmute you. Electron gun. Somebody is answering.
Okay. I don't expect an online answer. I want an explanation of how this circuit works.
Any answers, participants? Or anybody is willing to voice over their answer? Jai Vignesh has answered, sir. Like by radiation wave, they can capture the image from various parts of our body.
Yeah, but what I'm expecting is how an X-ray is generated. So this is the X-ray tube.
And Yogesh, magnetic field due to high current flow.
No, that's MRI. That's not X-ray. How X-ray is generated?
Yeah.
Basic physics, 12th standard physics.
I think Raghuraman has elaborated his answer. Today's X-ray machines produce a stream of electromagnetic radiation that interacts with an anode in an X-ray tube. When X-rays come into contact with our body tissues, they produce an image on metal film. Soft tissue, such as skin and organs, cannot observe the high energy rays, and the beam passes.
Hold on, Sujata.
Yes,
Sujata,
sir.
hold on.
Yes, sir.
So he mentioned about anode, but he directly went into the imaging concept. All I'm looking at is a simple explanation of how X-ray is generated. Right? Imaging can be used. X-ray can be used in many fields, right? So don't worry about the medical application part of it. How a basic X-ray is generated. Somebody
Anna
is
has answered
that?
Like difference between the voltage in cathode and anode.
Yes, that's very close. Yeah, little bit elaboration.
And Amrita,
You can see the picture. You can see the picture. It has something called target. It has something called filament. So what is all this?
Any answers, participants? Electrons are targeted in anode to pass the radiation to the target. Karpagam has answered.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah. So what happens is you have an anode, you have a cathode. We put in a very high voltage and current to it, and because of which ionization happens, and the X-rays are being generated. Basically, the target is being hit, and because of that, there are different radiations that can happen, and one of that is X-ray, right? So when we have this target, this is probably iridium or tungsten kind of target. So typically what happens is like based on the amount of voltage and current that you put in, it generates the electrons which can go and hit, right? So the target is a very small piece in itself, where it goes and hits and it generates the X-rays, right? So what happens when X-ray tube is being used for prolonged time, like let's say 1 year, 2 years, because of constantly hitting the target and ionization, the target's effectiveness gets reduced. It can have sediments, or it can become weak as time goes on, right? So at one point of time, the target gives away and the tube fails, right? So what was happening earlier is the hospitals are waiting for the tube to go away or go bad, and then they used to call, and then the service will ship a X-ray tube right to the customer's place, and then they have to schedule a replacement, and a replacement happens. It usually took like up to a week to do all this procedure, because the tubes lie in somewhere in the godown. It takes some time to ship, and then service engineer has to fly down, and everything has to happen, right? So now, how are we predicting this failure with big data and AI? Right? This is what is the important piece which you guys have to understand. Like I mentioned, right? It keeps hitting the target, and when the target is going bad, as time goes on, the tube takes more voltage and current than which it was typically taking to generate the amount of X-ray that is needed to produce the image, right? So what happens is, by end of the procedure, the data from all the components, I'm just giving one example. So data from all the components of this machine gets uploaded into the cloud, and one of the data is the X-ray tube data, right? So imagine about 30,000 to 40,000 lines of logs gets uploaded for one therapy. That much of data comes in, right? So the algorithm, what it does is it filters out all the necessary details, and it has already been trained, right? What is the cutoff? So it will bring up in the dashboard that this hospital has this X-ray tube, and it has started degrading. It is taking more current. So they have a window, right? So they set that window such that it is they are having at least 2 months of alert before they can go and replace the X-ray tube. So what they do is they predict a failure. They talk to the customer. They order the X-ray tube. They ship it. They plan for replacement during night time or downtime. They have it replaced, and then the next day it is ready for the next patient. Any doubts here? Is this example clear?
You have any doubts, participants? I don't see any doubts, sir.
Okay. All right. Now I will go to next example. I'll try play this video. If you are not able to hear it, no problem. I will stop the video. I'll try to play this video. Are you able to hear?
No. No, sir.
Okay, fine. Just one moment. Just want to show this. Yeah, don't worry if you are not able to hear it, but if you are able to see it, this is important. Are you able to see it? Are you able to see the video being played?
We can see it. We can see it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you want to play it also, I think in the share screen option, you just have to check mark. If you want the sound to come, you can just check mark the audio box.
Oh, okay.
And then the sound will come.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, let people see it. I can voice over.
Okay.
Maybe I will play it one more time. So this machine is called auto refractometer machine, right? So what it does is It is used to take a high resolution image of your eyes, and can be used for multiple purpose. It can be used to find what is your power in the spectacles that you may wear, or how your visual power is. It can also be used to find other issues, right? That's very important. You saw the procedure, right? How they take the image, right? So with that high resolution, uh, let's say it's like a high resolution microscope, they take an image, and when there are people with diabetes, right? They can have the early stages. They can have small aneurysms, like small bubbles you can see, right, inside the eyes,
Yes,
which
sir.
can happen, which is the initial stage of this retinopathy disease, where you can lose eyesight. So what they do is they take a high resolution image and they feed it into the cloud, and analysis happens with that image to figure out how if they are having this issue, is it in early stage or is it in a quite advanced stage, so that it can be treated accordingly, right? So this analysis happens in the cloud. Now imagine in a country like India, this machine that you saw, right, the small autoref, that can be put in a small van. It can be taken to villages. We can screen a bunch of patients, or we can screen anyone, right? It need not necessarily be someone who has issue with their eyesight. We can screen a whole lot of people. All the data gets into the cloud. We can pick up who all are having potential issues, so that we don't have to wait for them to fall sick, or to get their eyesight lost or partial loss before they can come to the hospital. Isn't this very interesting solution for a country like India, where we have many patients who are suffering with diabetes, who will have eyesight issues in the future, right? This is one another example of how it is used for pre-screening and predictive therapeutic procedures. Any questions?
No questions as of now, sir. How is data mining done? There is a question.
Okay, so I think this is the last slide that I had. So we are pretty much open to questions now.
Yes, sir.
So please, post all your questions now. I mentioned about two specific examples. So these are the examples out of which the first one I had really worked on. The second one is something which which I had seen through. I have not worked on. I worked on the autoref machine, but I have not worked on the software piece which does that analysis. Right. So, but in general, if you guys have any questions, I think we are. I'm done with the actual examples and presentation. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Gokul, sir, for such a wonderful session. Participants, we will go ahead and take some questions from you, if you have any. Yeah, there is a question by Raghuraman, like what role will cloud computing play in healthcare in the future? Future of cloud computing in healthcare.
Yeah. So like you saw, right, already it is playing a good role now, today. Like I showed a couple of examples. One example is directly something which is used for, finding issues in your eye for, future treatment. You also see that it is being used by manufacturers for, providing predictive service and all that. So it is already playing a big role today as we speak, right? But in future it is going to evolve, and it is going to be better, is what I see.
There is another question from Selva Jayashree Balaganesh. Does an Android app for patient healthcare monitoring is based on these big data analytics, sir?
Okay.
Android app.
Yeah. So good question. So these days you see a lot of apps and smart monitoring device, right? Like you guys have this watch kind of things which can take data out, right? So remember one thing, physicians are not going to allow machines to make decisions, right? They cannot make medical decisions at this moment. Still, a manual intervention is needed in healthcare domain. So what is happening is an intermediate, solution that's happening today. For example, Apple Watch has heart monitoring feature in it. Like it can monitor the heartbeat and it can alert for arrhythmia or heart attack. That's the first app in the world which got approved by US FDA. FDA stands for Food and Drug Administration. They have to approve before it can be marketed in US. Any medical device, right? So that was the first app that got approved as innovative or breakthrough technology. So what happens in such scenarios? It comes with a clause saying that it can predict an alert. It doesn't mean that you have to treat that patient with that particular data. They have to still go to a hospital, but it can help in a certain extent. So like that, you have multiple apps today. Many apps are not really having any certifications as such today. Like what I mentioned, right? There may not be FDA certification or something like that. They could have developed apps, but it's going to take some time to evolve and get all those streamlined.
There's another question from Sharon. Is biostatistics same as this in healthcare, or is it a different stream?
I think biostatistics is a bit different stream as is. This is more of data and analytics, field, and it falls more in data analytics and artificial intelligence with respect to devices, not like bioanalytics.
I think Sharon, your question has been answered, I believe. And there is one more question from Arun Kumar. How to implement preventive care strategies using big data?
Yeah, so you saw one example of the eye disease, right? That's definitely a preventive care. You are able to relate it, right? Before even somebody is really diagnosed with a loss of eyesight, they are simply able to just capture an image and see if how much of issues there. Will they be in future getting a problem with their eyesight? That's really a preventive care, right?
Yeah. Any further questions, participants? It looks like we have covered all of our questions, Gokul sir. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
No, I think that's what I wanted to cover. So if there are any further questions that you may have offline, please feel free to write it to Sujata or somebody so that it can be passed on to me and I'll respond through email.
Okay. Okay, participants, you must be having my mail ID, aceevent@alphagroup.edu. If you have any further questions, you can even mail us offline. So we will be able to take your questions.
Would like to thank Gokul sir for such a wonderful session. So
Yes.
it has been informative, as participants would have felt so, and definitely we would like to have you here again in future, so that many of our participants do get the benefit.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again, students, staff, and management for providing this opportunity. I think it was a wonderful opportunity to interact with all of you. I hope it was beneficial, and I wish all the very best for all the young minds. Just keep one thing in mind. With current situation, it doesn't mean that this is going to prevail. See for new opportunities which can help improve the situation instead of being worried about the situation and about job market or whatever you are worried about today. So instead try thinking what you can do, being at home and being safe, how you can help come out of the situation so that it benefits for the community in the future. right? All the best for your future. It was wonderful talking to you guys.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your
you.
time amidst your busy schedule. Thanks to all the participants for making this event a grand success. Finally, I would like to thank our principal, Dr. B. Soumya, George sir, Senior Operations Executive, and also the fellow faculty members who have helped us in organizing and conducting this webinar. Thank you all. We'll be mailing you the feedback link also through mail. So please don't worry if anybody is not able to receive the feedback link. Already I've posted it in the chat box, sir. Thank you, participants.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Participants will be closing the session in another couple of minutes. If anyone is still yet to, if anyone hasn't received the feedback link, kindly just post it. Yeah, Sujata ma'am has just posted it again. Please just fill up the feedback link and we'll be mailing you the e-certificates within a day or two. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.